This is Paul Brinkhurst from FutureWorks, and we're continuing with our set of instructional videos on the use of ReSET. In this video, we're going to look at interpreting the plots. So if I look at video 1, I can first of all go to the supervisor and consensus score page, and I can see that for time point 2, this data set has been finalized, and we have our plot sitting underneath the scoring table. So the ideal is that this plot is finalized with the team present so they can see the plot. This will be the first time they've seen the self-assessment results. And we're working here with a skill set. So the person's working on their soft skills, 4 skills in this case. And we can see that we have some interesting results here. In presentation, we have a significant gap, with the staff saying presentation is acceptable and the employee is reporting it being less. They don't think they're presenting well. Up here under teamwork, very strong score for staff, not very strong score for the individual. The individual thinks their attitude is not great, but it's a lot better than the staff think. And here we have pretty close to an agreement on motivation, but in the yellow area. So when you're analyzing these plots, what you want to look for is where are the positives, teamwork, presentation, where are the negatives, attitude, and motivation is weak. From the staff perspective, where you have a gap between your view and the employee's view, that suggests that there's a misunderstanding. Either the employee is thinking that their skills are too low compared to what you're seeing, or they're thinking it's too high compared to what you're seeing. In either case, you're going to be referring back to the observations for that skill in order to bolster the case, right? It's not the fact that you're necessarily right in terms of the behaviors that they are trying to show, but certainly you're right in how you're interpreting them and how an employer is going to interpret them. So it's important that the employee understands why you're scoring the way you did. And the notes that you put in are the key for this. So they should be very clear and concrete notes explaining why you think you scored teamwork was high, right? So you'll have observations reporting positively on certain teamwork activities, particularly if the score is this high. Likewise, down here, with scores this low, this is a 2, there should be lots of observations about negative attitude, which you can share with them. And you're sharing with them to try and help them understand how their behaviors are being interpreted. Shouldn't be a negative experience. Just like a coach would talk to a boxer about some bad technique, it's important that you fix it so that they can do better in the next time they're out in the ring. Same thing here. We're seeing your behaviors in this light. We'd like to see something different. We'd like to interpret your behaviors in a way that's going to be acceptable. So how could you modify your response to certain situations in order to do this? It's interesting that they already know that their attitude is a little bit weak based on their own scores. Okay, you're just seeing it as weaker. So the idea is that the team is going to analyze this first. You're trying to come up with the priorities. What do you want to focus on in the debrief? Which do you think are the most important ones? I mean, clearly this is an important area that they should work on. All right, so you're going to be trying to bolster them in these areas and make them feel a little better about their skills, and you're going to try and work with them to actually modify this one and possibly motivation. Once you've got a set of an understanding of this plot, then you can actually go to the debrief. One last thing before we go. It's often the case that one skill will impact on another. So if you had somebody who was very self-conscious about, say, their teeth, they may not be wanting to work with other people because of that. Or if somebody has very poor motivation, they don't really want to be at the job, that may be reflected in all kinds of other problems here. And you want to tackle the root cause. You won't necessarily know the root cause right away, but over time, it should become clear based on the conversations you're going to have. So as a team, you're going to analyze this plot. You're going to come up with your priorities. You're going to come up with which skills do you think are going to be give you the most leverage in terms of overall improvement. And then when you're ready, the case manager is going to actually use the view and print plots here, because this one, there's no scores, right? And you don't want to show the employee scores. Scores get in the way. Scores make people think of tests, and this isn't meant to be a test. This is meant to be their evolution to become a better employee, their ability to put on behaviors that they need for the workplace. So you're now going to debrief, and any plans that you had might change based on the information they provide. You may be interpreting behaviors one way. They may give you additional information that says, oh, and maybe it's not this skill. In fact, maybe it's a different skill that we need to work on. So be prepared for that to shift in the conversation. In that conversation, you really want to try and be affirmative. You want to be positive. This is not a disciplinary conversation. This is a growth-oriented conversation. And then if you wish to, you can use the distance travel plots. It's up to you. I mean, these ones are all showing a downward trend for the most part, which is just because the data is fictitious. So you may look at these and decide to use those for motivational purposes, or you may not, right? You don't have to. You can just limit it to the plot that's here. Okay, you can also, of course, go back and refer to different plots if you want. So hopefully what you're seeing over time is a steady improvement, which indicates the person is understanding what you're talking about and they're making progress in terms of developing their skills. Remember too that in your plan you can work on a performance improvement agreement, a PIA, or if necessary, a more disciplinary version, the continuance contract. And anything you do like that, I would go back to the employee list and I would go to notes and I would put in a new note, probably calling it you could call it a meeting summary, right? Because it's part of the debrief. And in there you can summarize the outcome of your meeting, and you can also put in any PIAs or continuance contracts that you need. And that's how you go about interpreting these plots.